Mr. Cargill, in his book, in the first book of your writings, Derek Roberts wrote in an introduction, David the Customs, in the first book.
No, the first book, yeah.
In the first book, okay. And he wrote that on Being Morris, restless undertaking, one of the Caribbean's most widely read journalists, broadcaster, large-scale farmer, a novelist, member of statutory boards, executive entrepreneur, cinema manager, solicitor, newspaper editor, elected politician. Do you have a medical degree to add to all of that?
No, no. No, I've been sort of a jack of all trades. I'm not really very much good at anything, you know. I farmed for 30 years and never made any money. And I've written to the Gleaner for 50 years and I've made any money either.
What did you enjoy most?
If I enjoy my life, I enjoy everything I do. I went to England during the war and I worked for the British government. I was the business manager of the Crown Film Unit, making documentaries for the war effort. And that was great fun.
Okay, so after you finished your sojourn as a civil servant in England, did you then come back to Jamaica?
No,
How long after did
not
you come?
immediately.
What happened? Where did we?
Well, I went into the plastics. I became the London manager of a big firm of plastics. And that I did for a while. I was also a director of a company called, of a company that was run by Bob Lightbourne at the time, World Orland Assembly. That was very interesting. And I also imported rum into England, Myers' rum. And of course, Tia Maria.
Tell us about the story of Tia Maria. How did Tia Maria... You actually named the drink.
Yes, well, how that came about was this. When I thought it was a good idea to get a coffee liqueur into England. Because when I went into pubs in England, the men would drink a lot of beer, terrible stuff. And the women didn't like to drink beer. And they didn't like to drink gin because in England it's known as mother's ruin. So they didn't really know what to drink. And I thought it would be a good idea if I could import a coffee liqueur, which is tasted familiar with. Well, I remembered that my aunt, who was the wife of a man who owned an estate in Westmoreland, Shrewsbury, called Shrewsbury Estate, used to make these little liqueurs, you know, at Christmas. So I came out to Jamaica to ask my aunt how she made it. And unfortunately, when I got there, she was quite gaga. She'd forgotten my name and all that kind of thing. And I then discovered that the Dr. Evans was making these things, and we made different arrangements. But when I got back to England, I was talking to my London advertising agent, because we hadn't decided on the name or anything like that, and we were trying to think of a name. My advertising agent was trying to think of all sorts of different names and wasn't working. And to relieve the tension, I thought I'd tell them about my poor Aunt Mary, who'd gone gaga. And my advertising agent said, "My goodness, that's the name, Tia Maria."
Auntie Mary.
Auntie Mary.
Yes,
That's how it got called.
Yes. Did you ever get any rights? Did you ever make any money off Tia Maria?
A little bit, yes. Herbert Hart and myself, who originally really were the major starters of it, decided after a while to sell out. We were rather stupid. We sold out a little too early, but we didn't do too badly while it lasted.
I want to take you up from England now. When you got back, you bought Charlottenburg.
Sure, yes. It was a banana farm. It was 750 acres.
You bought it as your birthday gift.
Yes,
36
I bought it for myself on my 35th birthday.
Wonderful. It was £15,000 you said you paid for it?
Yes, that's all.
Really?
Can you imagine?
And what did you do with it? How long did you stay at Charlottenburg?
About 30 years. It was a lovely property, but it was totally run down when I took it over. So I had to build it up from scratch. But unfortunately, in 1950, there was that big hurricane. And everything I put into it was blown absolutely flat. So I had to start all over again.
Did you have insurance?
No, I had no insurance.
Okay.
No. I just had to take my beating like a man.
Where did you then move? After Charlottenburg? You rebuilt Charlottenburg and farmed it?
Yes, for nearly 30 years.
What were the crops that you farmed on?
Mostly bananas, but coconuts and cattle and some cane. It was mixed. And some citrus.
And you were still with Barbara at the time?
Yes.
Your first wife?
Oh, yes. We were married for 35 years.
Barbara was a Jewish Jamaican?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Her father was a lawyer, Samuel, of the firm of Samuel and Samuel.
What after Charlotte, what were some of the experiences of farming at that time in regard to the banana? Because you were also chairman of the banana board at one time.
Yes, well, I was. No, I wasn't chairman. No, I was on the banana board. I was a director. John Pringle and myself were on the banana board in the end.
And what were some of the experiences in exporting banana at that time?
Well, very difficult, really. I don't want to get on the subject of bananas because whenever I used to write about bananas, all my readers used to protest. So I don't want to bore my listeners.
You know, John Pringle, who is your brother, you explained
my half-brother.
to me, your half-brother, once said that it's in your new book, in the introduction, he's written, Morris and I have never mistaken a job for a life.
Exactly. We have jobs, but we believe in living life. Is there anything to do with it? Nothing else to do with life but live it. Nothing useful otherwise. And John and I believe in exploring life to the full. That's why I've done so many different things. Because when I do one thing, I get bored with it. I decide to do something else. Because you learn each time. When you change, you learn something new.
Do you get bored still?
No, I never get bored. But I get bored if I do one thing for too long. But no, I'm never bored. Never been bored in my life.
Your writings these days are pretty much a reflection. The issues remain the same as in the 50s. The issues really haven't changed. On March 22nd, Sunday, 1998, you've written about tourist harassment. In the 1950s, you wrote about tourist harassment.
I know.
Does it ever get tiring?
Nothing ever changes in this country. You try to point out the awful mistakes that they make, and they go on making the same mistakes. This is the extraordinary thing about Jamaica. From the very beginning, when we got what was laughingly known as our independence, we made a great mistake in the way we got it. And that mistake has been bogging us down ever since.
Is that a cynical view? Some of your critics may call that a very cynical view of independence.
Well, you see, look, I remember going to Puerto Rico and staying with that great person, Munoz Marin. And he said to me, this was long before independence, and he said to me, go back and tell Manley and the rest of them that they must not get independence unless they link themselves up with some metropolitan country. Because if they don't do that, they'll go broke. He said, I would never do that with Puerto Rico. And of course, Puerto Rico linked up with America.
That's right.
But I told them, but they paid no attention. And so eventually, we went into independence without even a gold watch for 300 years of faithful service, No money, and no linkage with any metropolitan country. Of course, naturally, we went broke, and we're still broke.
You still write about higglers, you still write about garbage, beauty contests. You've written about beauty contests.
I know. What am I to do?
But nothing has changed. Does that frustrate you as a writer? How does that make
No,
you
it doesn't frustrate me. I have to comment on things as they come up. And when more garbage comes down, or more tourist harassment, or more beauty contests, I have to comment on it, naturally. By the way, before I go further, you don't mind my Peanuts, my poodle, being in my lap. He's my colleague. He writes quite a few of my columns for me.
Yes, we recognize some of those.